Hi everyone, it's Lovely with another Bright Line Eating Vlog, and today I'm going to be making my grandmother's recipe, my Nana's Pasta Fazool without the pasta. So I call it Zuppa Fazool, which means bean soup, and it's based upon the Pasta Fagiole, or in my grandmother's dialect, Fazool, Pasta Fazool, recipe that I learned as a child. My grandmother, Italian grandmother, came over from Italy through Ellis Island when she was 16, and she had already known how to cook a lot of Italian recipes, and so she made do with the different types of ingredients she had in New York, where they had settled to, and this was one of her staple soups that she made for the family. So I figured out how to make it as close to hers as possible, with ingredients that have no flour, no sugar. So the first thing I did was last night I made a marinara sauce based upon her recipe, and I made a chicken stock that out of using a rotisserie chicken, and some vegetable stock that I had left over. But you can use something like this, like a nice organic chicken broth, or if you're vegetarian, vegetable broth. But it's always nice to add your own spices, and it gives another layer of richness when you make your own broth. So I'll show you the broth I have here is really nice. And I also, if you can see down here, I had sauteed a sort of mirepoix, a set of onions, one medium-sized yellow onion, and I had a few carrots that I chopped up. And I sauteed them, and so after I made the soup, I just threw everything together, or after I made the stock, I threw everything together so it would be ready to go today. So I'm adding this to the pan, and I'm gonna, you can see there's like a nice, I'm not sure if you can see that. There's a nice thick top, gelatinous top. It's actually, the whole thing has become overnight in the fridge, this gelatinous goo. So I'm gonna add this. I'll put measurements down in the comments, but I often, or in the description below. So if you click the little arrow to the right, you'll find the description. Sorry, I'll show you guys that. So you can see the vegetables already in there. I tend to eyeball things and taste them. I know that we're not supposed to bite, lick, or taste, BLT on BLE, but I do tend to do tasting, and I kind of use what I have. So I won't be following my exact recipe today, nor do I ever really follow it, although I do follow the amounts for soup that's suggested on the Bright Line Eating website. And then the next big thing to add is sauce, and I made a sauce that I using garlic. We always use Hunt's tomato sauce in a can as our base, and spices and some red pepper flakes to add a little kick to it. So that's basically what I'm adding to it. And also you need the beans. I like to do two different types of beans. So I have the Great Northern beans, and I usually tend to pour out a little bit of the aquafaba so it's not as much protein. Just pour a little bit of that out and then add them. And I also like the little teeny tiny ones, the navy, is it navy beans? White beans, white beans. They're a little bit smaller. I won't pour out any aquafaba since I poured out most of it in the other can, and that. And that's basically what we have. I'll show you. I'm gonna let this simmer and for probably 30 minutes. But you can see here, that's what it looks like with everything in it. I'm gonna let that simmer for about half an hour. And I don't put anything else in it. So basically the only thing that's in that is beans, onions. I had a little carrot, so I added that today. And I pre-cooked the sauce. I pre-cooked the chicken stock. But if you have that on hand, you can just throw it together. And then I'll show you what I like to put in it once once it's ready to eat, because that is really the key. Okay, so my soup is cooking on the stove. It's been on there for about 15 minutes, but I was just thinking I wanted to share some tips and shortcuts about this soup. So first we'll start with shortcuts. So I can see if you want to make a quick version of this, you could make what I call a quick sauce, which is, again, I highly recommend the Hunt's sauce in a can. Actually, let me go get that and show you what I'm talking about. This comes in a large can, large cans and medium-sized cans. I usually get one of these. For this sauce, I got one of these, and I got one of the crushed, the same size, and I use both of them. So when I make a quick sauce, I can just put, instead of sauteing garlic or sauteing onion or both in the bottom of the pan, and then putting the sauce in, and then adding basil and oregano and pepper and very little salt, and letting it cook for 2.5 hours. That's basically my sauce. I will make a quick sauce, which is like a 20-minute one, which is everything like that except garlic powder. Don't need saute anything. I always put red pepper flakes in my sauce when I'm sauteing the garlic. So this is sort of like a tip and a shortcut. So make a quick sauce. It takes you 20 minutes, but it's really good to like flavor it up nice. And use a really good chicken stock or vegetable stock. And like I said, the more time you have, the more you add to it, the better flavor it will be. You could do this in a crock pot, but I recommend doing the sauce maybe in a crock pot, and maybe like in the evening, start your sauce, and then after a couple hours, then add your chicken stock. And then not till the next day, till you're like a couple hours before you're going to eat it, would I add the beans, and the onions, the mirepoix, which technically includes celery, although I don't really like celery, so I don't use it. You can get that pre-chopped at your grocery store and just saute it, and throw that in also at the end. But it's critical that at the end you have at least a half an hour for everything to simmer and work together. And you'll see a little bit later, I'm going to be putting spinach in at the last minute. I don't recommend putting that in sooner than that, because it has a nice flavor, burst of flavor, when it's fresh, and then it slowly wilts as the soup is hot. But the key thing, and here's the tip that's important, is sauteing the mirepoix, sauteing or just onions, if you want to just do onions. I've done that too. And I kind of do them fairly big size chops, just quick chop. Because if you think about the taste of an onion, yes, you can throw raw onions in, and yes, you could put it in a crock pot, but the difference of the taste that you're going to get in the quality of the sauce is doing that sauteing first. The difference is, think of a raw onion versus a sauteed onion. They're miles apart in terms of flavor and taste and yumminess. So highly recommend you do the sauteing, if nothing else. And would love to hear if you do try this as well. So 15 more minutes and then yum. Soup's ready. Okay, now's the important part, dishing it. So you can see everything is kind of mixed together really nicely. And so now I'm going to put it in my measured cup. And what I do is I use the Bright Line Eating measurements of 14 ounces. And that's going to include the spinach I'm going to put in. So I will measure it to a little less than 14 ounces and see how much the spinach is. Try not to make too much of a mess. I want to get some beans in there. So maybe we'll do another. Okay, so we're almost at 12 ounces. All right, 13 almost. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is put these ingredients in. So we've got spinach, and I like to wait until the soup is hot, just off the stove, so the spinach wilts. And then we're gonna put some mozzarella cheese, some ricotta, and some parmesan. So I kind of eyeball this, but I'm looking at, you know, how much it goes up. So I want to kind of fill the top of it with spinach, and then I see it's still only right 13.5. So, whoops, went a little bit over. Take a little bit out and get it down to 14 ounces. And there we go. Close, 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 close. Drop, drop, drop. Okay, 14 ounces. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a spoon and it's gonna I'm just gonna mix it in there, and it's gonna start to wilt the spinach, but keep it nice and fresh. So I love adding this at the end. It doesn't get too soft. And I think when you have more fresher ingredients like this, they're more nutritionally, they're better for you. So that's starting to wilt. And now I'm going to zero that out. And I already have protein in here from the beans, but it's not a lot. So what I like to do is just add a little bit more protein. And so it's not technically following the 14 ounces, but it's nice to have a little bit. Let's see, oops, I'll zero it out again. Come on, here we go. My scale is freaking out. Okay, so about a dollop of that, and a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Oh, I love how this, we haven't gone up to two ounces yet. And then a little bit of Parmesan. And once you start to mix that, so that's about 1.5 ounces. So again, that's a little bit more protein, but there's not that many beans in here. It's not fully bean. It's just, you know, there's beans. So I kind of chalk that up. As long as I'm under 2 ounces, I'm okay. I feel like it's okay. I'm not gaining weight. And you'll have to figure out what's best for you. But as it starts to, as you stir it, it starts to mix together. It's almost like having a pizza soup. And here you go. So this has been Lovely with another Bright Line Eating vlog, and I like to say I'm lovely and so are you. And I hope you enjoy this Zuppa Fazool, courtesy of my Nana, Lucia, and myself. Yum. So good. Buon Appetito.